But believe me, she learned this music from reading, and it is truly magical, which is going to be the theme of our lesson on key signature. And this comes right after our lesson on the clef sign and the staff.
The goal for part 1 of our 2-part key signature lesson is to draw and describe a flat, a natural, and a sharp sign. And our success criteria is to draw that sharp, flat, and natural and describe how they alter pitches.
Before we dive into the key signature, we'll need to know what the elements of a key signature are. And those are the flats, sharps, and naturals. Why is the key signature so important? Well, I'd like you to be the boss of the finger patterns that you play so that you're going to play in tune with the rest of the orchestra. I'd like you to think about an iceberg, and you see the top of the iceberg. It's beautiful, but there's a whole bunch of ice underneath the water that you don't see, and it can be very dangerous for ships. Just like our key signature might be our iceberg, where if you ignore the sharps and flats at the beginning of the piece, you could crash into the wrong notes and make the piece not sound as good as it could. Let's stay with that iceberg metaphor for a moment and think about the 3 ways that water can exist: the solid form, gas form, and liquid form. And now let's take a look at these letters, because these letters of the musical alphabet are also just the tip of the iceberg, because there are 3 forms of each of these letters. We have the sharp form of them, the natural form, and the flat form. Let's look at the A as a note on the piano keyboard. This might help to show how notes are altered by these signs. Here is the A as a white key. When you put a sharp sign before any note, that note will move up in pitch or to the right on the piano by 1/2 step, and it will sound higher. And this happens to be the black key directly to the right of this white key. But if you go 1/2 step below this A white key, you land on A flat, which is the black key directly to the left, and it sounds a 1/2 step lower. How this works on the cello is that we lengthen the string to lower it, and we shorten the string to make the pitch higher. So I will show you, probably not on the A string like the piano, but I think we'll go down to the G string, first finger A. That's another A. I'm going to keep my thumb in the same place as I do this, where when I flat the A, I'm going to lengthen the string by extending the first finger up here. I really didn't move my thumb, and then I'm going to take that flat away by going back to A natural. It makes it go up higher again. And then I can either do this, where I bring the first finger up to A sharp. When we sharp the note, we make it a little higher by 1/2 step. Or I could really just use my second finger. So then we've got that A sharp. We can natural it and go back to A natural, go back to A flat, and then natural that and back to A natural again. Let's take a look at how the sharp is drawn. It kind of looks like a hashtag, it kind of looks like a tic-tac-toe sign, but it really isn't, because it's just slightly different, where a tic-tac-toe sign has just absolutely vertical and horizontal. These lines would get lost on the staff. And the hashtag also has those lines, which aren't good, but then they diagonal those. But the sharp sign does it this way, where they have these lines diagonal, I might be exaggerating a little bit, and then these lines vertical. So that's how the sharp sign looks. And this middle area here, the way that it would look on the bass clef is that this middle area would fall on either a line or a space, and let's just choose the F line here, marked by this clef. That middle area now is saying that that F is going to be sharped. Now, we'll learn in our next lesson about how that works for the whole piece, or it could just be for one note. The way you draw a flat sign is to make something that looks like a lowercase b, and this space here, this little area here, will go on the staff on one of the lines or the spaces to take on the name of that line or space. And I'm just going to choose this second to bottom line here. We'll put that area on that line. This line happens to be a B, and so that will name this line as a B flat if it was in the key signature, which we'll talk about in the next lesson, or it could just be on any note that happens to fall in the song, and that will take on, let's say this note up here had a flat sign. See how the area is in that space, and it would flat this note right there. The natural sign is an interesting drawing where it kind of reflects the way that it works. You know, sharps make notes go higher, flats make notes go lower, and the natural, when you cancel out one of those, can really move a note either way. And so you're going to draw it like this, where we kind of have two opposite things happening. We've got sort of the letter L here and the number 7, and that creates a box in the middle, which then is used to cancel sharps or flats on whatever line or space that thing is on. Now I'm hoping that you'll be able to meet the goal of our lesson. That was to draw a sharp, a flat, and a natural, and to tell me how they move notes around. And so just to review, we've got our sharp that looks like 2 vertical lines with 2 diagonal lines across, and they make notes go a half step higher. The flat looks like a squashed B, and those flats make notes go a half step lower. And then the natural sign can go either way. It cancels out the sharps and the flats, and you draw it kind of like an L and a 7, so it's giving you that signal that it could make a note go either way. And so now we're at the point where we can move on to our key signature, where we might call these accidentals. And that's where our magic happens, and the next lesson then we'll meet you on part 2 for key signature.